Hey y'all, I'm Hope. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I am starting to put together some reading goals for 2023. If you've been on book Twitter at all recently or kind of around this time last year, you may have seen this like 12 books, 12 friends, or 12 friends, 12 books, 12 months challenge that was going around. It's been going around again this year and I really want to do this, but I'm bad at Twitter and so I posted a tweet for this and I got one response, which was from my partner, which he posted after I was talking to him and mentioned that I had tweeted this, and he like ran to go post something. So like shout out to Jacob for being super sweet and supportive. I really appreciated it. But yeah, I apparently don't have 12 friends on Twitter. At least I'm not very good at reaching them. So I was wanting to do this, but I have not been able to get 12 recommendations. But I do want to prioritize reading my own to TBR. This is a constant ongoing project for me. I have a huge number of unread books. But to kind of supplement my efforts to read off of my TBR, I wanted to do this challenge, but I'm going to do it a slightly different way because I'm going to do this as a random assortment of books that I already own. And the way that I'm going to do that is I have this mug and this jar. And between the two of these, to the best of my knowledge, contain all of the unread books that I own across any format. This is physical, ebook, and audiobook. And I'm going to do a random assortment where I'm going to just draw 12 books out of this mug. This is my backup jar for when this, as if this is ever going to get low. But whenever this got low, this would be where I draw from. So I'm just going to draw 12 books and make those my kind of priority TBR for next year. And I think this will be fun because I think that it's possible we could get some of the new stuff that I've been interested in reading, but just haven't had time for yet. But we could also get some of the stuff that's been sitting on my shelves for a little while that I've been meaning to get to and forgetting about. So I think this will be interesting to see what actually comes up. I am going to be drawing them out of here. What I did was I took these two, I dumped them out on a table, I shuffled them around, and then I put a random assortment back in each container. So I have no idea which books are in the mug, in the Fighty Cat mug. And you may have seen this before if you see even any of my TBR Betrayal videos, because this is what I use for my Omen picks. So basically, I'm just going to draw 12 books out of here, and that's going to be my priority TBR for 2023. So let's see what the first book is going to be. I'm going to try really hard not to spill these all over the floor because they will be a pain to clean up. Okay. Book number 1. Oh, I know what this is. I was very confused for a moment because it's just a name. So I got H.P. Lovecraft, which is in fact right here. I forgot. I was like, what do you mean H.P. Lovecraft? That's not a book, that's a person. I have a biography of H.P. Lovecraft that was also gifted to me several years ago for Christmas that I've never gotten around to reading. So I'm gonna try and read this. Okay, first book down. Feels like a good pick. Let's toss that over there. Put that on the shelf. So, book number 2. Let's grab this guy. This is a new one. This is Silver Under Nightfall by Rinch Pecco, which is right here. So I believe this is a story about a vampire hunter who gets involved with a couple of vampires and begins to question his place in the world, I think. I know his name is Remy, and that's basically everything I know about this book. But I've heard a lot of good reviews of this lately, and it sounds like it's going to be right up my alley because I like vampires. I like fantasy romance stuff. And I like when a character is kind of confronted with a different version of their reality and has to figure out how to deal with that. So I am excited to pick this one up, and that's a fun pick. All right. Book number 3. Oh, one's just jumped out. I guess we'll pick that one. This one fell on the floor. That was almost a disaster. I knew this was in here, and yet. So, I got A Little Life. I don't know if that's gonna focus on that, but anyway, it says A Little Life, which is right here. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I started this previously. I read about 100 pages, And I set it down because I was trying to buddy read this with my partner, and then he decided that he wanted to DNF it, and I was really not feeling it at the time, so 2023 is, I guess, going to be the year of reading this beast. Interesting that so far we've had all physical, although I think I do have the most in terms of unread books on my physical shelf. Okay, let's get this one. Book number 4 is going to be... Okay. We've got Slippery Creatures by K.J. Charles, which is another one I just bought. This is a historical queer mystery following, I think, a war veteran who takes over a family bookshop and some other guy that he meets and gets involved with, and there's like a mystery. So that's all I know. It's incredibly vague, but I bought this one because it was on sale on Kindle, and Freya Marsk tweeted something about like, oh, this is one of my favorite romances, and I was like, well, if Freya Marsk likes it, obviously it has to be great, because I love her fantasy romance, A Marvelous Light. So, very excited about that. First one that's also not a physical book. So, this is what, number 5. Okay. So we got A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. That's another one that I've just got recently. I could have sworn I got these mixed up better than I thought I did, but I guess a lot of my new ones are right where I'm grabbing from. But let's see, where you at? There you go. So, A Dowry of Blood, which is a retelling of Dracula, but from the perspective of Dracula's wives. I've heard nothing but great things about this book. I did read, like, the first couple of pages when I bought it, and the writing was very lovely. So I think I'm really gonna like this one. I'm thinking about doing a vlog for this where I read Dracula because I have never read it, and I have it on audiobook with, like, a full cast audiobook. So I might do a vlog reading, like, Dracula and then reading this. So that's a consideration. Let me know down in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing that. But I am actually pretty pleased this is on my list, because this is one I would like to get to soon. Alright, Halfway Point, book number 6. Let's get one of these little ones. Okay. I see half the title. The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. That one's interesting too, because this is another one I got a couple of years ago. Also tried to buddy read with my partner, and we both ended up just not being in a reading mood. We both were in a slump around the same time. So, let's see, where are you at? Should be. It's probably going to be somewhere really obvious. I'm going to feel really dumb when I spot it. It is, it's right here. It's right in front of my face. So we have The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which is a, I think, kind of eldritch horror fantasy set around New York City, and it's about the city of New York having avatars for each of its boroughs, and they have to come together to fight some sort of entity that is trying to attack the city, and it's like every great city has avatars that have to protect the city. So I think that's a really interesting concept, and I was liking it when I was reading it. Again, this was one that we just both picked up at a bad time when we were not prepared to read it, but I've heard nothing but good things about this one as well. I've heard a lot of people really like this, and I know N.K. Jemisin is a really popular author, and I've been wanting to kind of get into her work because I've heard so many good things about all of her series. So I think this is the one that with the premise that excites me the most, so I'm excited to get to this one. Alright, book number 7. Okay. Okay, next up we have The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This book has been on my shelf for about a year now, I think. I bought it so I could do the Goodreads Choice project I tried to do this year, where I was reading all of the sci-fi and fantasy nominees from 2021, and that kind of fell apart, but I was liking this. Let's move this little birdie. So we have The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. It's the first book in the Bloodsworn saga. The second book came out this year. I think the third book is coming out next year. This is a multi-perspective epic fantasy. I believe it's Norse inspired, and that's everything I know about it. I have also, like some of these other ones, started this book. I think my bookmark fell out because I don't see one, but I was only like maybe 30 or so pages in, so I'm definitely gonna have to restart this one because I don't remember what happened. But I've heard, again, like in K. Jemisin, I've heard a lot of good things about John Gwynn's writing, so I've been wanting to try something of his for a while. And I've immediately lost count. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Okay. So book number 8. See if I can really dig down into the bottom here. Get something from down there. Interesting. So this one is A Painted House by John Grisham. This book has been on my shelf for a long time. I'm trying to remember if this is one. I have a stack of John Grishams that are right here. And I have some of them were ones that were handed down to me from my mom. Like they were ones that she'd already read and she was like, oh, do you want to read these? And so I have some of those. And I also have some that I got from my partner's parents because they were moving and they were like downsizing their bookshelves. And they were like, hey, we've already read these. You guys can have them. And then my partner has no interest in John Grisham. So I ended up with all of them. Conveniently, it's right here at the top. I have no idea what this book is about. Not a single clue. It's either legal thriller or nonfiction or some sort of like heartwarming story about a town. I'm not really sure, but those are like the 3 things that John Grisham does. So it's one of those, and that's basically all I know. Alright. Book number, I think this is 9. So next we got The Broker, which is another John Grisham. So I guess it's going to be the year of my return to John Grisham because I used to read him all the time. And then I've kind of fallen off of that. I had this weird reading journey where, like when I was younger, I started off reading like children's fantasy, like The Warrior Cats and Redwall. Like those were my favorite things. Let's see, is The Broker somewhere I can get to it easily? It is. It's the second book on this stack. So we have The Broker. Almost certainly this one's a legal thriller based on the title. Again, no clue. It's just John Grisham. It's one I haven't read yet. And yeah. So anyway, I had this like interesting reading journey where I was reading lots of children's fantasy. And then the library at the time when I was kind of in the young adult age range didn't have like a young adult section. That wasn't really a thing yet, or at least not at our library. So I jumped from reading in the children's section to reading in the adult section, and I went from reading like Warrior Cats and Redwall and stuff like that to reading John Grisham, like legal thrillers. Like I jumped from children's fantasy to legal thriller, and that for some reason worked for me. I was still a voracious reader. I read that. I read a lot of true crime at the time as well. Police procedurals. That was kind of my thing then. And then more recently, I've gotten back into fantasy and sci-fi. But yeah, interesting leap from children's fantasy to like legal thrillers and crime procedurals to adult sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, it worked. I love to read. But yeah, that's part of why I have so much John Grisham on my shelves, was that I think because my mom and my grandmother were both reading a lot of John Grisham, they would just like have books that they'd already read and they'd be like, oh, do you want to read this before we take it to the Goodwill or return it to the library or whatever? And I would be like, yeah, sure. So anyway, gonna have my big return to reading John Grisham this year, I guess. Let me grab count again. That's 9. Let's grab number 10. Oh. I'm actually going to redraw this one because we've got Genesis of Misery by Neon Yang, and I'm actually planning to read that later this week. So I'm going to set this one aside and we're going to draw another one. It's possible I won't get to it this week, but I am currently planning to. I'm doing a vlog at the moment of like books about historical figures, kind of reimagined or retold, and this one is Joan of Arc. So let me toss that aside. I'll put it back in the cup when I'm done. So let's redraw book number 10. That one will do. Okay. So we got The Wicked and the Divine, The Faust Act, which is a graphic novel that's been sitting on my shelf for a good long while now. I'm not a huge graphic novel reader. I've been meaning to get to this for a couple of years, I think. But, yeah, so that's a nice short one. I think this is about gods walking among humans in modern day. I'm really not sure. I no longer remember the synopsis of this at all, but it'll be good to finally get this one off of my shelf, at the very least, if I don't like it, or maybe I'll love it and I'll continue on. I don't know. I seem to be pretty hit or miss with graphic novels, but it is definitely time to finally be getting to it. Okay, so book number 11. Let's get this guy on top since it's trying to come out of the thing anyway. Okay, so this one is Vagabonds, which is another one I bought recently. Oh, it's right there, right next to where The City We Became was. So this one is a literary sci-fi, I believe, about people who are from, is it Earth? No, they're from Mars. And then they are sent as a delegation. Mars is like broken away from Earth society. And then this group of young people is sent as a delegation from Mars to Earth. And it's about them returning to Mars and trying to deal with like the shift in their identity that's occurred as a result of having been like children or young teens and then growing up on Earth away from their families, and then coming back and having to readjust to Martian society. So I think that sounds really interesting, and I think this one was actually translated by Ken Liu. I believe that was why I knew about it, but I found a copy at my local used bookstore, and I think it's intriguing enough I wanted to try it, and I've been trying to read more translated fiction, so this kind of fits into that. And this will be a good motivation to go ahead and pick it up instead of letting it languish on my shelves like so many things actually do. Okay, so that should put us at the final book, which is gonna be, really dig down in here and get something from the bottom. Oh, I dropped one. Okay. I should have seen this coming. I knew these were in there, but... Okay, so this is The Raven King by Nora Sakovic. This is the second book in the, I think it's called the All for the Game trilogy. The first book is terrible. It's a horrible book. It's so stupid. It's a book in which the author wrote about a bunch of things that she had never done even the slightest bit of research about. And it's like a train wreck. Like, it's so awful, but it's like entertainingly bad and you can't look away. And I was reading this when I read the first book for my friend group. Has this little, it doesn't really have a name. It's sort of a book club, but I am the designated reader of cursed books. I read things that they're curious about but don't want to have to read themselves, and I tell them about it. And I read the first book several months ago, which it was, The Foxhole Court. I read the first book several months ago, had a terrible time, but like in an enjoyable way. Like, it was terrible, but I was having a great time reading it. I read that in like 2 days and suffered for it. And I guess now I get to suffer for my friends' amusement yet again, which they'll be very pleased about. It's been a while since I've had time to do a cursed book reading, so that'll be a good one to do next. This actually went remarkably well, and I'm excited about this selection. So let me grab the pile. All right, so these plus 2 ebooks are gonna be my 12 books for 2023. This is fucking heavy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm actually excited about this. This is kind of a fun stack. It's a mix of things that I forgot I had, some things that I got recently that I'm excited about, and some things that I'm less excited about but probably should be at least reading so I can get them off my shelves. But yeah, this was fun. If this goes well this year, I may do this again next year, but at the very least it was fun to draw all of these books and see what happens. So yeah, I'm gonna put the paper back in, so if I play TBR Betrayal this year, which I'm kind of hoping I will have some time to do as long as it doesn't get too crazy, I will have the chance of pulling one of these books out, which may help me kind of keep them fresh in my memory and prioritize them. I was hoping that wasn't gonna happen, but here we are. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you're planning to read in 2023, and if you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!